2, 1.
First, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello, this is Fox 12 Now. Let's take a look there at our Chinook Winds camera that is at the Oregon coast, and it looks all right out there. I think right now, if somebody happens to be out there, though, it looks it's pretty empty. So might be time to go to the beach after you watch this. This is Fox 12 Now. We're live here every weekday starting at 1 p.m. Pacific. We're live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, our website, and our app. So thanks for joining us. I always want to remind everybody that that's where you can find the show afterward as well, even if you're not watching live. Today, though, we're continuing some coverage that we started yesterday, and it has to do with a clinical trial at OHSU using gene editing in order to partially restore vision to some of the patients who are part of this trial. It's pretty landmark. It's the first time that this type of gene editing has been done on an actual human. And so far, the results have been pretty positive as far as what's happened from that. This study was released in the Atlantic Journal for Medicine, and yesterday we spoke to one of the patients who actually had her eyesight partially restored. Pretty amazing story from Donna. You can check that out on those platforms I just mentioned. But right now, we're going to be playing our interview with the Dr. Mark Pennesi, who was the lead researcher behind this. And again, pretty amazing stuff. He talks about, well, the study and how it got started, but also some pretty optimistic signs for the future for other types of conditions that perhaps this could also help alleviate or maybe eventually cure. So that's what we're talking about here with this. So we'll go ahead and let the doctor speak. Here it is, right here on Fox 12 Now.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. It's really a pleasure to be here today. So I'm an inherited retinal degeneration specialist. I study patients who have rare genetic eye diseases. And we've been looking at these diseases for a long time, but we've really had very limited options for treatments. And in the past 10 years, we've started to do gene therapy. But for many diseases, gene therapy is limited because the genes might be too big to fit into the gene therapy vector that we use. And so this technology started to come along about 5 or 6 years ago. And what makes gene editing different from other gene therapies is we can actually go in and edit the native DNA. And that allows us to make corrections to even large genes, such as the one that we're talking about today, which is a gene called CEP290 or CEP290. And this was the first time that we used this CRISPR-Cas gene editing technology in humans. And so it's really an amazing new technology and something that really opens up a lot more tools in our toolbox to treat rare diseases.
And I think that's incredible. So this is the first time on humans that this has been utilized in this way. And looking at it from that standpoint, you know, what was it specifically, I guess, about the tackling these issues with vision? I mean, obviously that's your specialty, but what was the reason that that one was specifically chosen?
Yeah, so this is actually an interesting disease because even though the patients are born with almost no vision, they're very impaired. When you look very closely at the retina, there are still cells there. They haven't completely died. And so there are a number of these cells that it's almost like they're not fully formed, but we can actually, if we fix the genetic defect, we can get them to work again. And so we've actually been able to show that we can improve vision in patients with this disease, which is really amazing.
That's incredible. Yeah, to have that, to be able to go in there and see those kinds of results happen. And so when it comes to this particular study, so you realize that you were able to do that, you go through, you select your participants. What is the process like for them once you do start along the gene editing?
Yeah, well, being in a clinical trial is a big commitment by patients because we have to see them ahead of time to get baseline studies. They go through all kinds of different tests of vision, not only reading off the eye chart, but we measure electrophysiology, we measure their visual fields. So patients might come in for 2 or even 3 days of testing at each visit. And then they have to undergo the surgery. There's a recovery period to that. And then we're following them, multiple times a month, for several years. So it really represents a big commitment, and we're very thankful for our patients who have, essentially volunteered to be part of this trial.
And once you started doing that, you're going through the trial, and obviously, as you mentioned, that's a big step for somebody to be involved in that. That's a lot involved. We did speak to one of the participants, Donna, about that, and she said, yeah, it was a lot to do this. So once you're going through all of that, you don't know exactly what's going to happen. What was it like once you started hearing of these results of some of these patients seeing some of that eyesight recover?
Yeah, well, we're always hopeful, right? And when we first start hearing stories, we're cautiously optimistic because we really want to make sure that it's not a placebo effect. But as time goes on, it becomes apparent. Every time they come in and we measure their vision and we see that it actually is a little better, you become more and more convinced that something is happening. And then as time goes on and patients start telling you stories of things that they can do at home, you realize that, well, yes, indeed, their vision is better. And this does have an impact on their lives. And, things that might seem sort of trivial to us actually can make a really big difference in their daily living.
Yeah, Donna, and again, for anybody watching, we've got that interview up too. She was talking about just how being able to look for her missing cell phone, about how that helped out, or seeing the lights on the coffee machine, which apparently she hadn't noticed before. I mean, huge things in your life that a lot of people may take for granted. And so looking at the success, or at least the positives that have come out of this example of a gene editing study, how important do you think that is for the future of using gene editing to tackle some of these big issues that are out there?
Yeah, so in this trial, 11 out of 14 patients showed some improvement in their vision. And, we have to be clear, this is not a cure. We're not bringing their vision back to perfect, but we did see measurable changes. But I think what's more important is the fact that this technology can be applied to many other genes. And so it really opens the door to treating a whole variety of other genetic eye diseases.
Do you think that this could be expanded upon as far as not only this study, but also into other areas of the human body as far as what gene editing could do for them?
Absolutely, and it already has. So the eye was the first place that this technology was used, but it's already being used in other parts of the body, such as for blood illnesses like hemophilia and sickle cell anemia, as well as rare neurological genetic diseases. So this is really going to have a huge impact on all of medicine.
I love it. For anybody out there who may not understand exactly what gene editing is and what the CRISPR program is what you're doing, what would you say is the biggest misconception that people need to understand when it comes to gene editing?
Yeah, so, one thing I think that's really important to understand is that we are not altering the entire genome. So we're not making changes that are passed on to your children, for example. We are only correcting the cells in a person's body. So this is not something where we're, changing the human species. We're really just fixing the genetic defect in patients who have these illnesses.
One final question, I know, because I believe we've already had people calling about this. So when you have a successful study like this, what does this mean for the future of other patients out there who may have not only what Donna has, but also other issues as far as applying for and maybe being a participant themselves?
I think it's really important for patients who have these diseases to make sure that if they haven't seen a specialist in a number of years, it's probably a good time to check back in, because we have so many new trials and so many new options for these patients on the horizon.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us today. Anything else that you think that you'd want to share just about the amazing results of this study?
No, but I just think that it's a very hopeful time, and technology is amazing. We are going to cure a lot of these diseases in the next 10 or 15 years, and I'm just really excited to be part of that.
That's great. Well, thank you very much. Thanks for all of your work on this, and I appreciate you being here with us.
Thank you.
So that was one of the key moments there when the doctor was saying that they think they're going to be able to cure a lot of these diseases within the next 10 years by doing these kinds of studies. And clearly this one from OHSU is the first of its kind, and seeing those kinds of results, it's pretty amazing. Anytime you can combine technology with that kind of medical research to actually improve somebody's life or change their life, or as Donna mentioned in her interview, talking about, for kids out there may not have to go through what she went through growing up, going to doctor after doctor after doctor, trying to figure out what was going on. Now this may be something that in the future could be as simple as a procedure that solves it. So pretty exciting stuff. Always love sharing those kinds of stories, and we share a lot of stories here on Fox 12 Now. We have every segment is different that we cover. I will say, coming up at 1:30 p.m., we're going to be talking about National Teacher Appreciation Week. It is this week, if you didn't know, and we've got the president, Becky Pringle, of the National Education Association, and I actually spoke to her earlier today. We're going to talk about what Teacher Appreciation Week means for her, but more importantly, about some of the struggles that teachers are going through from her perspective, as far as wage issues and a lack of teachers in a lot of areas, and just even hiring more. So we cover a lot of that. We do talk about Portland as well, and Oregon. So that's an important conversation. That's at 1:30 p.m. You can join me right back on whatever platform you're watching on, whether that's Facebook or YouTube, the website, the apps. The app is a great way. So downloading that Fox 12 Oregon app, good way to watch all of our shows. But however you found us, thank you for doing so. And also to all of you who watch us consistently, thanks for doing that as well. If you have an idea for a segment, feel free to send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. That's fox12now@kptv.com, and we'll see what we can do. And I have enjoyed some of the feedback that we've been getting on some of the segments, so thanks for doing that as well. All right, we'll talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12.